Voices and images of those participating in the meeting may be captured as part of this recording. Indigo Shire Council acknowledges the original custodians of these lands. The people of the rivers and the hills have walked these lands for thousands of years, as well as today, and we pay respect to the elders of the past, present, and emerging. Voices and images of those participating in the meeting may be captured as part of this recording. Indigo Shire Council acknowledges the original custodians of these lands. The people of the rivers and the hills have walked these lands for thousands of years, as well as today, and we pay respect to the elders of the past, present, and emerging. Voices and images of those participating in the meeting may be captured as part of this recording. Indigo Shire Council acknowledges the original custodians of these lands. The people of the rivers. Sorry, just some technical difficulties. As councillors, we have all taken an oath to carry out our duties in the best interests of the people of Indigo Shire and to do this in a fair and impartial manner. We are all committed to exercising the council's powers and functions to the best of our skills and judgment. Do we have any apologies and leave of absence? We have apologies from Councillor Tysell and Councillor Horn. They're the only apologies, CEO.
That's correct, Madam Mayor.
Do we have any declarations of conflict of interest? And before we move to open forum, I'd just like to welcome our new governance coordinator, Annabelle Harding, to her first meeting. Welcome, Annabelle. So now we'll move to open forum, and we have one question from Robin McLeish. Robin, so I'll read your question out. The opportunity to introduce a 40km/h speed limit in the Beechworth CBD was raised in a question to Council at the February 2022 Council meeting. The question is, has Council now completed its investigation into the request and reached a decision on the implementation of a 40km/h speed limit? I'll direct the question to the Director of Infrastructure Services, Ian Ellett.
Hi, Robin. Thanks for your question. So look, there has been a decision reached. Just quickly back on the process, because it wasn't a decision for council, that is quite complicated. The request was put to what's called the Traffic Liaison Committee, so a committee that comprises council, Regional Roads Victoria and local police. That group endorsed it and forwarded it then on to Regional Roads Victoria late last year. I think that was around August or September. They referred to Road Safety Victoria. Now we were hoping to get that in October. They didn't make a decision at their first consideration of it. I think it needed some extra information. It got a bit caught up in the state election and their caretaker provisions. But I understand they made a decision probably late last year. It then gets referred to the Minister for a final decision. So Council has been notified in recent weeks that the introduction of 40k speed limits in streets in Beechworth has been approved. And so I'm just trying to get my head now around the exact timings. That's something that we need to work with regional roads. The changes in speed zones will occur both on the arterials, so Camp Street and Ford Street, as well as some of the local streets nearby. So it'll be a joint effort. We have had problems with materials and getting things as quickly as we. They've taken a bit longer than what they have traditionally. So look, I think it'll be a number of weeks before we see it implemented, but we can certainly give you an update as we get some more information. Thank you.
That's the only question for open forum tonight. We'll move now to community and council achievements. Did any councillors have anything for that item? I'd like to discuss the opening of the Epic Trail. So I had the pleasure of joining with Helen Haynes and some of the other groups that were involved, and staff and community members, in opening the Epic Trail. It was on the day that we opened it, it was almost 4 years to the day that the funding was announced, $1 million grant under the federal government's Building Better Regions Fund. Council committed $1 million and we stood there and opened the trail. It was a buzz with excitement. There were a lot of cyclists there that had come from far and wide. There was a couple that I met from Tasmania, another rider from Port Macquarie. They all knew each other, very connected within their respective networks. And as we stood there, they were so appreciative. They were speaking to us and thanking us for for the trail and saying what a great product it is in the mountain bike offering. And we stood there with all of the different partners, and just to name them, the Parks Victoria, Department of Energy, Environment, Climate Action, HVP Plantations, as well as the local mountain biking community. And we were all reflecting on just how this actually happened, because it's such an effort to work with all of those different partners to be able to produce a product like that. And that's a real credit to the community and the momentum that they've got, and their collaboration with our staff and all of those different organisations. So they headed off, we cheered them off, and they were late to return because they were already boosting the local economy by stopping at the distillery along the way. And so they were late to get to us at the other end. And when they arrived, it was rave reviews. They said that the track was technically perfect. They said that they had great visibility and were able to really get some pace up along the track, but they'd also bring their children and give them a go at some stretches of it as well. So again, very complimentary at the end of that ride. And there's since been quite a bit of media in local media, national media, and just a lot within the mountain biking community as well. So a real credit to all of those players, but particularly here tonight at the council meeting, I'd say hats off to our staff for managing that project, for getting it across the line, and for all of that collaboration with the respective sort of partners. So well done. Did anybody else have a community and council achievement?
So Mayor, just I'm acknowledging for the Epic Mountain Bike Track, the project manager, Callum Brown, did a fantastic job. They managed to get it through Beechworth Historic Park. That sort of thing has never been achieved before. So Callum did a terrific job along with the rest of our staff.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Goldsworthy. I'll move now to condolences. Are there any condolences tonight? No. I'll move now to item 8, confirmation of minutes from previous meetings. The recommendation is that the following meeting minutes be confirmed. 1, minutes of the council meeting held on 28 February 2023 as published on council's website, and 2, confidential minutes of the council meeting held on 28 February 2023 as provided to councillors under separate cover. Do I have someone to move that? Moved Councillor Gaffney, seconded Councillor Croucher. Councillor Gaffney, would you like to say anything? Nothing. Councillor Croucher? No. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We also have another recommendation, and I'll just read the preamble. There was an error in the February council report that incorrectly named one of the applicants to receive a grant. As a result, the council resolution allocated the grant to the Rutherglen Historical Society. This was in error as the applicant was the Rutherglen Gold Battery Committee. This item seeks to correct the public record with regard to the grant recipient. So I'll read the recommendation that the decision of the February 2023 council meeting to award the grant to Rutherglen Historical Society Incorporated be corrected to the correct recipient being Rutherglen Gold Battery Committee. Do I have somebody to move that? Moved Councillor Shepherd, seconded Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Shepherd, would you like to say anything? Councillor Gaffney? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Apologies, I've skipped right over business arising from previous minutes. So there was a question from Councillor Tysell that's had a response provided within the agenda. Item 10 is petitions, and there are none, Theo.
No, Madam Mayor.
Item 11 is planning and corporate services. Item 11.1 is the February finance report. It is for information. The recommendation is that council accepts the year-to-date February finance report, noting the progress against council's Q2 forecast. Do I have somebody to move that motion? Councillor Gaffney. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Croucher. Councillor Gaffney.
I'd like to start off with a question for the Director of Finance. The report mentions that the amount of forecast cash is $2 million less than the amount of cash on hand. Could you please explain the reasons for this variance?
Thank you, Councillor, for the question through you, Madam Mayor. The council is sitting on a little bit more cash than forecast for the month of February due to some prepaid grants, but also some capital works projects that are still in progress.
In that case, Madam Mayor, I'd like to add that the financial position is favourable to the Q2 forecast.
Councillor Croucher, would you like to speak as seconder?
Yeah, just after reading through the report, the financial position is deemed to be still favourable to the Q2 forecast, despite the variances of favourability and unfavourability seen in individual account lines and service areas.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? Councillor Gaffney, would you like to sum up? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 11.2 is the planning permit application PP 22-0188 Payne Road, Beechworth. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit for the construction of a telecommunication facility at 76 Payne Road, Beechworth, subject to the conditions at attachment 2. Do I have somebody to move that motion? Moved Councillor Gaffney, seconded Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Gaffney.
The communication facility is a 40-metre, monopole. The development of land use that appropriately anticipates and responds to the needs of residents who are prioritised within the state planning policy framework and the local planning policy framework. It is considered that the proposed telecommunications facility meets the strategic direction of the local policies and would result in an enhancement of amenity within the Beechworth community.
Councillor Shepherd, would you like to speak as seconder?
I note there were 2 objections, and we went out and had a look at the site, and we've also read this quite extensive report. I think the things that I appreciate out of this report are the 2 points: that the proposed installation will provide future opportunities for co-location on the structure by other carriers. And I did ask, can't we just put those on the poles that are already there? But they said they're at capacity. So I think when it's the balance is that we need better communications. I'm sure the people that are living close would be happy to have better telecommunications. And then one of the issues was that the emissions was a concern to one of the applicants submitters, but emissions from the proposed facility will be significantly below the Australian Radiation Protection and Nuclear Safety Agency standards adopted by the Australian Communications and Media Authority. And that's really who we have to pay attention to. So I feel confident that that's been well covered, and I'd like to second this, yes.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? Back to you as the mover, Councillor Gaffney. Would you like to sum up? No, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 12 is Community and Economic Development. Item 12.1 is the Creative Indigo Arts and Culture Strategy 2023 to 2027. The item is for decision, and the recommendation is that council adopts the Creative Indigo Arts and Culture Strategy 2023 to 2027. Can I have someone to move that motion? Moved Councillor Croucher, seconded Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Croucher.
Well, I'd like to applaud the council for developing the Arts and Culture Strategy 23-27. You only have to look at the arts in all its splendour via the Yakandanda Folk Festival held on the weekend and attended by thousands of people. The process of working through a project steering committee, engaging consultants and listening to the community through community consultation has been carried out meticulously. The arts need the support of the council, and the passing of this recommendation is the beginning of a great relationship between both of them.
Well said. Councillor Shepherd, would you like to speak as seconder?
So this has been to us before, and we endorsed it to go out for community engagement in October. So in December, it was displayed for comment on the website. February, there were drop-in engagement centres at the Martins Lane Chiltern. 4th of February, there was Chiltern Courthouse deep dive, and then an engagement session at Beechworth IGA. And we had 8 written submissions, 12 participants at a drop-in session, 11 participants at the Chiltern drop-in session, and 13 at the strategy workshop. So we endorsed it as it was. It's gone out to the community. There's been quite a few comments on it. I think the comments really were supportive of, all of them were supportive of the strategy, but had tweaks that they would like to see, and that they are written in the report. I just wondered if I could just mention who the people were that, I thought I had the page right open. Oh, who the committee were. So the Deputy Mayor, Peter Croucher at the time, myself, Beck Palmer, Chris McGorlick, Erin Davis Hartwig, Kelly Sutherland, Lenny Morkel Kingsbury, Susan Reid, Malcolm Sanders, Kate Biglin, Penelope McGuffey, Susan Doyle, Rachel Clayton, and Carleen Lamana. I think those artists and creative people and our staff have done a great job, as you said, in engaging with our creative industry community. And I think this is a great document. I look forward to when it's endorsed this evening for us working forward with the community and starting off with some of the early strategies that we have in this. So it's been a great project, and thank you to all those people for their involvement. I think they're part of the next committee that will take this strategy forward to work with the staff. So lovely to have them on board.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? I'll go back to you, Councillor Croucher, to sum up.
I think we've said all. Thank you.
I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 12.2 is the Rutherglen Place Plan. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council adopts the Rutherglen Place Plan, including the Rutherglen Community and Arts Precinct Hub concept designs. Could I have somebody to move that motion? Moved Councillor Shepherd, seconded Councillor. Can I have someone to second that motion? Seconded Councillor Goldsworthy. Councillor Shepherd.
This is another great strategy that has come to us in December, and we endorsed it and sent it again out to the community. And again, they haven't failed us. They have given us lots of feedback, even though I think that many community members were involved in getting this strategy together, including the committee, the Rutherglen Place Plan Committee. I think there are still some people that wanted to add their piece, and they had face-to-face opportunity, feedback. They were able to feedback in writing, and there's a list again of subsequent amendments. So short-term goals was changed to add pedestrian focus on the main street, connecting town identity to place. There was an addition of consider lighting up the wine bottle. There was a medium goal, establish a plan for redevelopment, refurbishment of the existing Rutherglen tennis court as part of the master plan, and then a list of long-term goals where people gave feedback. So again, we really appreciate the community taking on their responsibility of, even though I think this came from the community, they still tweaked this document. And I think it's a great document. It's been an authentic example of co-design and community-led future planning, and it reflects a range of inspiration and aspiration actions for council to work towards in partnership with external funding agencies, government, and of course, the community.
Thank you, Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Goldsworthy, would you like to say anything as seconder?
Yes, the place plans have proved to be a boon for the Shire. If you look at how we kicked it off with Chiltern Place Plan and what that's achieved from a capital works perspective and community outcomes, then you go to Yakandanda and Tangambalanga. I think this one just is another one to throw into the mix, where we know that a lot of future funding and development for Rutherglen will rely on how this has come together. So thank you to the Rutherglen community for their input, and it'll be a worthy document that we'll utilise in the future to hopefully achieve a lot for the community.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? I just note that both of the councillors that our apologies tonight were council committee members on that committee. And so just to note that they would have had some positive reflections to make about the process from what we've heard from them in the feedback that they've given us. So Councillor Shepherd, I'll go to you to sum up.
I just again like to say who the steering committee are, because I think it's important for us to recognise the people from the community that are involved. So as you said, Councillor Roberta Horn, Brian Curran, Lisa Turner, Diane O'Dwyer, Hayden Weller, Jill Briggs, Damien Adams, Zoe Jaffart, Georgie James, Irina Webster, Michael Chambers, Mark Florence, Carl Lamana. So thank you very much for all those volunteer community members and representatives of the different groups for the huge amount of work that went into creating this document.
I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Item 13 is infrastructure services, and item 13.1 is the February Capital Works report. The item is for information. The recommendation is that council notes the February Capital Works report and year-to-date progress in the delivery of the Capital Works program. Do I have somebody to move that motion? Moved Councillor Goldsworthy, seconded Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Goldsworthy.
So our capital works forecast has been reduced from the adopted budget at the beginning of the budget cycle in the Q1 from around $20 million down to 15 for the Q2 forecast. And that was primarily as a result of those cuts that were made in the last meeting when we had those adjustments. So around about $5 million less. If you look at the capital works expenditure as a measure, you've got 49% completed in comparison to 56% last year's. The actual year-to-date spend is slightly above at $6.7 million. So there's still a lot of pressure that is being put on the capital works to be delivered, and we've got just 3 months left for the delivery. So best of luck to the Director of Infrastructure in achieving that with the unfortunately limited staff that he has and the emergencies that he's been dealing with over the last 8 months.
Councillor Shepherd, would you like to speak as seconder?
One of the projects that's mentioned in the report is the Chiltern Athenaeum. And I think not that long ago, I went to the Chiltern Athenaeum with a couple of other councillors, and it was looking very sad with sheets all over. Oh, that was with the Cultural Heritage Committee. We went on tour, and it was not one of the highlights to show that to the Cultural Heritage Committee. It was looking very sad and holes, there were windows missing, and the committee of the Chiltern Athenaeum were pretty sad as well. So it is fantastic to see that it's that the restoration works are progressing with significant advancement, and lots of things have been done. And there's been we've secured a grant through Sustainability Victoria, largely for the installation of a solar system, a climate control system, and insulation. So, which are important things, of course, with a collection like that. So I just think it's fantastic to start. I'm sure they're clapping their hands when they're reading this report, or they're clapping their hands seeing the restoration work finally happening. So that's great news.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Gaffney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to ask a question to the Director of Infrastructure. In the report, it mentions the Rutherglen Kindergarten building to replace existing glass windows with current Australian standard approved glazing. Could you tell us where that project is up to?
Sure. Thanks for your question, councillor. So look, our staff certainly have prioritised that. So building maintenance staff are working with we've got a contracted glazier who's won some work through a procurement process to get them on board. They're busy like everyone, so we've asked them to prioritise a number of weeks ago to get that assessed and get a quote to us. So I'm told this afternoon they've been to site. We're just waiting on that quote to come through, and then hopefully we're in a position to get them on site. Soon after that, I don't have a time frame, but staff are certainly working actively toward getting those works completed.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? I'll go back to you, councillor Goldsworthy, if you'd like to sum up.
Nothing further to add.
I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 14 is executive management, and item 14.1 is the 2023 Audit and Risk Committee Charter. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council adopts the 2023 Audit and Risk Committee Charter as attached. Could I have someone to move that motion? Moved councillor Gaffney, seconded councillor Croucher. Councillor Gaffney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor Price and I are both on the Audit and Risk Committee and had input into this charter. The proposed changes will bring council into alignment with other northeast and small rural councils for practices associated with documenting and reviewing remuneration of non-councillor members of the committee.
Councillor Croucher, would you like to speak to the motion?
I have nothing much more to add, but support the motion as it is, at the recommendation as it is mentioned. Thank you.
As a member of the Audit Committee, I'd probably just like to say that we've seen with some reports recently the importance of audit and risk committees. And so I'd just like to assure the community that we have great collaboration between the staff that bring us these, the charter and recommended changes. Really satisfied with the independent member discussion that happens at the committee. And as councillors, councillor Gaffney and I are both satisfied with the process and the level of maturity of that committee as an appropriate function for council. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? I'll go back to you, councillor Gaffney, if you'd like to sum up. No, nothing further. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 14.2 is the Audit and Risk Committee Performance Survey 2021-2022. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that Council 1 receives the results of the 2021-2022 Audit and Risk Committee Performance Survey, and 2 endorses the Mayor to thank the Audit and Risk Committee for their work at the next scheduled meeting. Could I have someone to move that motion? Moved by councillor Gaffney, seconded by councillor Croucher. Councillor Gaffney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Audit and Risk Committee is made up of accountants and people who are very experienced with financial matters and audit matters. In regard to the performance survey, section 54, item 4 of the Local Government Act 2020 requires the Audit and Risk Committee to undertake an annual assessment of its performance against the committee's charter and provide a copy to the Chief Executive Officer, which they have done. I'd also like to add that the 2021-2022 performance survey has demonstrated that the Audit and Risk Committee have successfully met the responsibility and accountabilities of its roles. The opportunities for improvement identified will build on those already being undertaken.
Councillor Croucher, would you like to speak as seconder?
Just a few words. I'm not being on that committee, but I'd just like to congratulate the committee, because just reading through the survey, it certainly shows lots of great information and things are going along very, very well. And I would like to endorse everything that Councillor Gaffney has said.
And I'd just like to say, I think that we recognise that a sign of a good committee is one that's not shy on reflecting on its performance and giving frank and fearless feedback. and constructive feedback. That's certainly what we've got within this performance survey. That's certainly what I see when I go along to those meetings, is a really, really open space for constructive conversation. And it would be my pleasure to thank the Audit and Risk Committee for their work at the next committee meeting. If there are no other councillors who would like to speak to the motion, I'll go back to Councillor Gaffney as the mover if you'd like to sum up.
I'd just like to say that with a committee like this who speak in an open and frank discussion and hold this council to account, they do a very good job.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 14.3 is contracts awarded under Chief Executive Officer delegation for February 2023. The item is for information, and there were no contracts awarded. Item 14.4 is informal meetings of councillors' records. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that council accepts the attached informal meetings of councillor records. Could I have someone to move that motion? Move Councillor Shepherd, seconded Councillor Croucher. Councillor Shepherd.
There's the list of the meetings we have attended for those people who'd like to see it.
Councillor Croucher. Any other councillor like to speak? Back to you, Councillor Shepherd, if you'd like to sum up. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 14.5 is the advisory committee minutes. The item is for decision. The recommendation is that Council 1 receives the attached unconfirmed advisory committee minutes, and 2 notes the following recommendations from the Finance Committee and that the actions are completed. A, that Council accepts the year-to-date January 2023 finance report. B, that Council 1 adopts the Q2 full year forecast figures. 2, directs the CEO to report against these forecast figures for the remainder of the financial year. 3, notes the Q2 forecast full year unfavourable result of $420,944. And 4, directs the CEO to recoup the unfavourable result in the 23-24 budget, ensuring that the previously determined 2023-24 end of financial year cash balance is still achieved. Can I have someone to move that motion? Councillor Shepherd. Could I have someone to second it? Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Shepherd.
I'm happy to move that we accept these motions from the Finance Committee and the attached unconfirmed advisory committee minutes.
Councillor Gaffney, would you like to speak as seconder?
I'd just like to say that the past 12 months have been difficult, particularly with lack of staff and having to employ casual staff to replace them, and to come up with an unfavourable result of 420,000, which we have now directed the CEO to recoup. And that the Director of Finance has worked long hours with his staff to achieve this result.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Back to you as Councillor Shepherd as the mover. Nothing further. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 15 is notices of motion, of which there are none, CEO. Item 16 is councillors' report. Did any councillor want to make a report on any committee or community activities they've undertaken in the last month? Councillor Shepherd.
I just quickly, because I think it's probably worth speaking about it once we get the minutes, but I chaired the Cultural Heritage Advisory Committee on the 16th of March, and it was the first one without Cameron Orty. And we now have Ashley Giffney as acting Burke Museum Manager, and we did a great discussion on our 4-year strategic plan, on a collections policy, on a number of great items. And it was just, as the chair, it was interesting just sitting there listening to the great advice. It really was advice that was being given to Ashley and the staff on the different things that were raised in the agenda. So it was great to see that committee working so well. And then in the afternoon, we had the Indigo meeting and strategic planning workshop with all those new, and sorry, I haven't got their names in front of me, but the new people that we endorsed at the last council meeting to join that Indigo meeting. And we discussed a strategic plan in the terms of reference. And it was a great meeting run by Natalie AJ, and everyone there, I think, I went and spoke to someone, I'm not going to name people afterwards, and they said, you know, I only went on this. I didn't really think it was going to be a very good committee. I thought nothing much would happen, but he said, I can see this is going to be a really useful committee, so I'm glad I'm on it. I said, well, I did want to say, why did you come on then if you thought it wasn't going to work? But it was good to hear that he was pretty happy with how it looked like we were going to act for the rest of the year. So both very useful committee meetings.
Councillor Croucher.
Yes, as a member of the Indigo Access Advisory Group, I had the honour of going to Wodonga this morning to attend the Albury Wodonga Access Advisory Group. It's certainly interesting to see how another committee works, especially the Wodonga one, when we compare our smaller shire with lots of little towns and so forth, whereas Wodonga is the one big city. We had 7 of our committee there, which was good, and they had about 12 or 13 of their members there. We had a guest speaker who talked on dementia, which was good, and found out that there's 130 different types of dementia, something I learned quite a lot. But all in all, it was great to work with another group with a similar agenda, and I'm glad that we were able to do that. And we'll certainly invite Wodonga back to us in a few months' time.
Would any other councillor like to make a councillor report? I'd just like to note the Mayor's Diary is obviously the month previous, so I'd just reflect on some of the events that I've been to across the course of March and say that we've got some really fantastic events happening in the Shire, and people post-COVID seem to be very keen to get out and about, so they've been very well patronised. And some of those events, just to name a few, were the Rutherglen Taste of Art Prize, where I was pleased to represent council, the Chiltern Rodeo, similarly, and then some consultation that took place over the weekend for the Chiltern Land project, where there was over 100 people came and gave us some feedback. So as I say, they're just a few of the community events that we attended, or I attended over the month. We were also pleased to partner with Victoria Police for an International Women's Day event. There's been quite a few things happening. So that's what I'd probably like to list just for a councillor report. I'll ask once more, did any other councillor want to make a report? I'll move now to the Mayor's Diary, which is for February 2023. It's for information, if any other councillor had a question. Move to item 17, which is the decisions register, which is for information again, if any councillor had a question. Nothing. I'll go to item 18, which is general business. Does anyone have any items for general business? Councillor Shepherd.
Having passed the cultural heritage strategy tonight, I just think last weekend we had the Yakandana Folk Festival and the High Country Hop both on, which they were both really well attended. I think it's amazing that in our small shire we're able to have 2 big music and cultural festivals and have them both very well attended. I think it's a sign, firstly, of what a great job all those people are, the volunteers and the community, in getting them going. The great choice of music, the great choice of food and wine. But as one of the people I spoke to said, once you've had a beer and a burger, it's art and culture that make a festival. And when you think about it, that's absolutely true. So congratulations on both those great festivals occurring on the same weekend and being so successful. And if I could also just thank the green team at the Yakandana Folk Festival, who had used the dish pig to make sure that many of the food stalls didn't use paper plates or compostable plates. They used real real plates and knives and forks. And volunteers were running backwards and forwards from the dish pig with crates and wheelbarrows, washing, and they've got dishwashers, 2 dishwashers, they wash the plates and then they take them back again. So the amount of paper and everything else that was kept out of landfill by that happening was amazing. And it was great to see it working so effectively. They also had a row of rubbish bins, and they had someone standing at every row of rubbish bin, which I must say, when I saw that they had to do that, I thought, surely people just read the sign and put things in the right one. But no, there were quite a lot of discussion at each rubbish bin. I went around and had a chat to them. I said, no, people come up, we really have to discuss which one goes in which place. And then I see that the next stage of the organics team have taken away all the organics rubbish bin and are already mixing that up to make compost. So that's already started. And I remember 3 years ago, 1 rubbish bin of waste went to landfill out of all of that. And there's a huge market. And I just think it's impressive. It's really impressive to see the amount of work that they do. And I would really encourage us to have someone from that team come and talk to us about how they got that system going and how we could perhaps encourage it to happen in all our festivals and events.
So is that a request in general business, Councillor Shepherd?
It's a suggestion.
So the suggestion is to
if we could at some stage have a briefing where the people present how it's quite an amazing system where you end up with 1 rubbish bin of rubbish out of a huge festival of thousands of people.
CEO, is that request received?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I don't think we need a resolution on it. Perhaps I might suggest that our staff get in touch with the organisers and get a briefing from them. I'm not sure that the councillors would want to hear a briefing, or just that the staff are informed and we look at ways to incorporate those into future events.
I'm happy for the councillors to give their feedback on how interested they are in hearing from those the leader, the team leader on how they do it. A written report might be just as effective, but it depends on people's interest.
I think we can note that and discuss that.
Yeah, I think the strategic intent is there, and sort of all the how-tos is probably
great.
More for staff to work through.
Does anyone else have any items for general business? Councillor Croucher?
I'd just like to endorse Councillor Shepherd's on the Yak Folk Festival. I went there on Sunday, thoroughly enjoyed it and thought to myself, well, here's something that hasn't been going for 2 or 3 years, and it was just back again and it was alive. It was absolutely fantastic. And you know, the Yak Folk Festival is a national event. In fact, it's really nearly an international event. There were items from Canada and Ireland and England and so forth. I thought it was a great event, and I'd just like to congratulate the organisers on such a tremendous event and one of the highlights on Indigo Shire's calendar.
I've got an item for general business, and that's just to give a bit more of an update on the Chiltern land consultation that happened over the weekend. There's been a community working group that have been working on the project with consultants and staff from Indigo Shire for quite some time. They were asked to be part of the consultation on Saturday morning, and so we all had a meeting on Friday evening, which is generally a stretch, and had great attendance at that meeting. And then a number of them, the majority of them, were able to attend the consultation on Saturday morning. And there were over 100 submissions received. People were so excited to be able to say to council what a great idea it was to purchase that land. They're really pleased that there's something going to happen, and they can see that there's a process in place. I think they were also really pleased that most of them could recognise one or some of the committee members as people that they know within the town, and pleased to have confidence in them reflecting the views of the community on that committee. And I would just reflect back to the council, to councillors and council staff, my confidence in the process that's being undertaken for that Chiltern land. And I think that's just the right balance of the appropriate consultants working very well with our staff and a great community working group. And that was reflected in the response that we got on Saturday morning. So many thanks all round, particularly to Carleen Lamana and Jane Maloney for their hard work. Would any other councillor like to raise any items for general business? Nothing further. If that's all, then I will declare the meeting closed at 7:15 p.m. with the next scheduled council meeting to be held on Tuesday, the 18th of April, 2023 at 6:30 p.m.